Hi, this is Matt from Audio Plugin Deals. Today we're looking at the Blofeld Synth from Waldorf. Let's check it out. So here we are, Blofeld from Waldorf. And I'm sure most of you are already aware, but this was a hardware synth, an incredibly popular hardware synth that has recently been ported over to plugin form. I used to own the hardware when it was first released, and let's be kind and say I didn't get along with it. In fact, to this day, it is the only piece of hardware that I've ever sold. And the reason for that was basically just the interface. The sound itself was absolutely fantastic, but the interface was just impossible, in my opinion anyway, to live with. And that's what made it so frustrating. The amazing sound behind an interface that just made it completely inaccessible. However, in plugin form, that's obviously no longer an issue, and all the complaints that I had with the hardware are now non-existent. So I couldn't be happier now to finally have my dream Blofeld finally available. So in terms of the video, let's take a quick look at what it has to offer. I might then try and create a sound, and then we'll go and audition some presets. So as you can see here, it is a 3 oscillator synth, 1, 2, and 3. In each of the oscillators you have the usual suspects such as pulse, sawtooth, triangle, sine. It also features wavetables. We can load wavetables, and we can also load samples. We then have the ability to FM, so we can do, let's say, oscillator 2, and we can turn that up. Let's turn on oscillator 2, obviously. To the right of that is the mix section, quite self-explanatory. This includes the levels for each of the oscillators, as well as the panning. We have a ring mod level, as well as a noise level. We have glide for portamento. We have the master amp section, and then finally the voicing. So currently it's on unison, or we can add more voices should we wish. Below that we have our filters, of which there are 2. Included in there are the usual low pass, band pass, high pass, 12 and 24 dBs, also notch, 24 and 12. There's also a comb filter, which I'm quite enjoying, and then a low pass from Waldorf's infamous PPG. Once again, to the right of that, we have the ability to FM the filter. Same as before, we have a drive section with some really cool models here, and then the usual envelopes and LFOs. One thing I will point out is on the envelopes, we have this variant here, which adds extra levels to this. It reminds me of the MKS synths from Roland back in the day. And if you're not familiar with those, essentially it added 2 parameters for each ADSR, if that makes sense. So here we have first decay, and then the second decay also. So we can make it ramp up like this. Really adds a lot of flexibility, and I've been using that a lot. Then on the LFOs, once again the usual, plus we also have random and sample and hold, which always come in handy here. And then finishing off the interface, we have 2 effects down the bottom. And then here we have chorus, flanger, phaser, overdrive, and triple FX, which is basically like a combination of several ones above. On FX2, we get the same, however we also get a delay, a clock delay, and a reverb. And just for completeness, we have an up, on or off here. Looking at the top, if we click on multi, you'll see that it is 16-part multi-timbral. It's good to have that, I suppose, but in this day of immense computing power, I tend to just load up another instance. But it's there should you need it. The synth button takes us back to where we were. Then we have the matrix, so quite an extensive mod matrix here. Next up is the up, and one feature that I'm really enjoying, as well as the step length, like so, is we can move this note forward and back in time. So we can basically adjust the timing and add a bit of groove. It's just a really simple and clean way of doing it. And then closing out the interface, we can go to sample here, and this is where you load in, as it would imply, your sample. Now another feature of this, which is really cool, is you can use this as an interface for your hardware should you wish. So if you go up here to menu, and then we go to Blofeld hardware, and you can send and receive MIDI patches. So if I still had my hardware, that would be absolutely the best of both worlds. So let's try and create something. Let's go to init up here, and I think I'm going to create a bell type sound. I need one for a current track I'm working on, and I think Blofeld is the perfect synth to create that in. So here we just have a sawtooth load. Let's change that to a triangle. Let's go down to oscillator 2, we'll turn that on. It is already on triangle, which is good. We'll turn the FM up, and then we will choose oscillator 1 for that. Let's maybe detune that while we're here, and we'll increase the octaves. Let's take it up. And now we'll skip over to our amp envelope, and like I said, let's use this one, the extended ADSR. Bit of release. Let's also take off reverb for the moment. Chorus can stay on. In fact, I'll turn that all the way up, as well as the mix. On the filter, let's choose a comb. We'll turn the cutoff down. Let's listen around there, I think. Then in the filter envelope, once again, the extended ADSR. Bit of release on the decay, if that makes sense. Turn the reverb on. Really such an easy and well laid out synth to work with. I'm really enjoying it. But let's leave that there. Obviously I can tweak that for hours, but we'll now get on to listening to some presets. Now before I go through this, there are two things I need to call out. One, it's going to be a bit messy because there's no preset favorite tagging in here, unfortunately. And I'm sure that's done to maintain compatibility with the hardware, but it does make it a little bit difficult to navigate. And the other thing is the presets aren't very well level matched. So when I skip through and the level invariably jumps from one to the next, please accept my apologies for that. That's just because, like I said, they're not level matched in the output of the preset. Could obviously put a compressor on it, but in these videos I like to keep the sound as raw as possible so you know what you're getting. I have made a little manual list, so let's go through the ones I've written down. I think you can hear just now how good this sounds. That Waldorf sound is just super crisp, super clean. Certainly does have some girth on it though. Two more, Bioshock. And Del Mar. I don't know how many presets there are exactly, but there are quite a few. I'm going to guess a few hundred. As you can see, scrolling. Yeah, go check it out on Audio Plugin Deals. I'm incredibly happy it is back now in my collection, and I'll be giving this quite a bit of love in the future. Thanks for watching. Go check it out on Audio Plugin Deals, and hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.